allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Minutes from September 8th, 2025, regular city council. Got anything, John?
Nope, I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Consent agenda: A, approve payments and disbursements. B, approve land use permit at 124 Main Street. C, approve land use permit at 922 Industrial Road. D, approve Solution Builders Master Services Agreement.
One question on D. When Kurt was here the other night, he said that they're having some issues with that, Solution Builders.
Their issue is mainly that we've had to add a firewall over there that we didn't have before, and then I think everybody's main problem with our Solution Builders is you have to get permission to install programs and things like that. It just adds a few steps to the process that were there before. I don't know if defend is the right word, but I will defend that agreement with them as a service provider. Basically, what everybody was used to is we had a part-time IT watch or do anything. And so the extra, I think just the extra steps, the extra security is what's frustrating these people.
Okay.
They're okay to work with, Jake?
I think so. We've come quite a way with them, I think. But the biggest deal was always going to be the Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions standards that have to be met. And I know I've said this before, but we had our choice of about 2 or 3 IT providers back in October of 2022. And to this day, 3 cities in Houston County have had to switch at least once because their provider couldn't meet the BCA standards, but ours has never fallen below that. So I think just for that reason alone is good enough that they were the only ones in the area that were or managed to meet those standards and keep us going with no violations or anything like that.
Perfect. I'll move to approve consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? Good. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Approved, same sign. Motion carries. Public comment. Anyone want to say anything?
Maybe later.
That's what I have this for. All right. Case man?
Public Works, down on East Grove Street, we've got a slow leaker in the street, the water main, so hoping to get that taken care of this week. We've been letting it run a little bit because it's coming up in a lot of places, and we could run a lot of blacktop, digging around looking for it. So I think it's close enough where we can punch a few holes and find it. Sewer down there for the wastewater plant, got a few contractors coming back working on punch list items, so some things are picking up again. Parks out in the Sprague Woods, Valerie Green with the DNR Forestry Office out there is always kind of our partner out there keeping an eye on things. We've lost a few oak trees out there recently, so she identified some oak wilt. She had a specialist come in to help her last week that's going to identify what trees had it, and they're working on a plan to mitigate that. It sounds like maybe a trencher, something to kind of break the roots from spreading. Apparently it spreads underground through the root system, so waiting to hear back from her on a plan. She was also going to work on some sort of grant funding to cover the cost of whatever it's going to take, so appreciate her out there helping us with that. Press box project, the guys got a lot of the concrete poured in the building is sitting up there on the piers, so we got some work to finish there. Stormwater, we've got 2 manholes that have failed in a section of pipe, so it'd be on the corner of Ramsey and Lincoln. That one we had barricaded a few weeks ago, and as we got investigating more into it, a hole on Hoka Street, so kind of adjacent to block, same thing. That one's falling apart, and it's got probably some of the oldest underground storm pipe. It's clay tile and some rotten steel, so we're looking at doing about 375 feet of pipe. 2 storm structures there, probably at least 1 more down at the bottom because it's kind of a low area. So that'll be, we're trying to get our ducks in a row on that one. Hopefully within 2 weeks or so we can get digging on that.
you hire that out, Casey? or-
Yeah, yep, that's way more than we can. So that's what that.
Does that affect some property owners then?
Yeah, this-
Buildings?
Yep, so this one here, replacing the pipe, it runs diagonally through Nancy Solutions yard, so we'll tear up some street, curb and gutter, sidewalk, all the way through the yard, and then it drops down below to the old Peter Plumbing property, Dennis Gavin owns that. There's a yard drain, and then it runs basically alongside his gravel drive, takes a 90 and shoots out to Holka Street, so we'll have to do some rock replacement for a road there too.
I have an issue. My house was built during the World War. Well, I have just had to replace my sewer system because it was made of the orange product they used for sewer back then. Well, I have gotten the project done, but now I am told that I have to pay for the tree removal that was on the boulevard. It's not my tree. It was a city tree. And that was the tree that was causing the problem in my sewer system. And I also have been told I have to replace the blacktop on the city street. I do not own the city street. I have agreed I will place the curbing. I will replace the sidewalk. But I don't feel I am responsible for the tree or the blacktop. If I end up doing this, everyone in my neighborhood, their houses are built at the same period of time that mine. Are they gonna stand for this? I'm not.
I guess I'll probably speak up here because I sympathize with you. I went through the same thing and I had to pay for the blacktop
Why?
because they had to dig the blacktop up to replace the sewer line.
No. The city put the sewer line where it's at, right in the middle of the blacktop. That was not our doing as the public.
Was it your sewer line?
Yes,
Okay. That's where the problem comes in.
I was informed by numerous people that I was responsible to the curb.
Not anymore.
It's actually a city ordinance that you own the service line all the way to the main, including the connection.
What about the tree? Isn't that the city's responsibility, the tree?
Well, the tree didn't cause the issue.
Yes, it did. The tree caused the issue because I was informed by the gentleman who did the project that all my water line and my sewer line were both entangled in the roots of that tree.
Yeah, so basically the way that is viewed, that it's kind of like a basement. If it gets water in there, it's not the water's fault, it's someone else's fault, it's maintenance. And you're right, Orangeburg was a sewer pipe, very old pipe. So, I mean, obviously it fails, it breaks down over time, and tree roots get in. Same thing happens with old clay tiles.
Then why do you continue to put trees on the city boulevard when it causes problems with homeowners?
We have not allowed trees in the boulevard for probably nearly 10 years now.
But you're still responsible for the ones that are there.
Do you see this kind of, we call it infill and infiltration, but I&I, do you see that I&I with metal pipes?
No, not as long as they're in good shape and maintained, you know. Your sewer line, you know, it did its job for numerous years and then it failed.
Through no fault of my own.
It's just the pipe was at the end of its life, right? And, you know, tree roots or any other kind of roots are gonna go to that nutrient that's in the pipe, so it's just the way it works. But, you know, the tree had to come down and repair your sewer. You know, the sewer didn't, the tree would have been just fine, it would have been elsewhere, right? So the sewer pipe replacement caused the pavement to be removed from the street, the curb and gutter, the sidewalk, and tree removal. It's an ordinance that, you know, if you have to do repair, you have to replace, and that responsibility is on the property owner of that service line.
Would there be some help for the sidewalk?
Yeah, we've got our 25% reimbursement on sidewalk.
Well, I was informed I could get help for replacing the laptop, but they're gonna put it on my taxes. I think enough things have been put on people's taxes. You have umpteen hundred buildings around here that are sitting half empty, no use. Money's been thrown away. And yet, the senior citizens are the ones that are paying in the long run. You have a county jail, Whitby Dean. 3 prisoners at most, maybe 4. The rest of it sits empty. At one time, I made a stupid suggestion. That was when I worked there. Maybe some area of that jail could have been used for the senior citizens' meal projects. I was laughed at. Well, they're still laughing. But what are they doing with all the empty rooms in that building?
Sandy, we're getting off topic here.
I don't care.
Well, it's not what this meeting's about, okay?
I thought this
I
meeting
feel
was
really, I
anything-
feel really bad,
I thought this
but this is
meeting,
maintenance
I thought
for your
this,
home that you have to do. And we have an ordinance that says we have to pay for it. I have to pay for it, Jake has to pay for it, Bob has to pay for it, we all have to. I apologize if it offends you. We don't want to offend you. We want everyone to be happy in town.
there's a lot of people that aren't happy.
I get it. I get it. I'm not always happy either. But coming and voicing your concerns helps. It's a good thing. We appreciate that. And we will work with you to make things as right as we can, right? With our, whatever we can do for you, we will. But there's certain things that it's like putting a roof on your house. It's maintenance to your
I have
house.
no problem with that.
And I get it. I totally understand. When I bought a house 5 years ago, I have a house that's 100 years old too.
But I,
Okay, and I'm gonna end up getting the same bill you got. I know
but
it's gonna
I'm
happen.
like most of the other senior citizens. I'm 78 years old. I'm still working.
I got a mother in the same position. It's tough. I get it. I understand where you're at. Don't think we don't have compassion for you. We do. Life is, things are hard right now, but we will do everything we can to help you. Okay? All right. Case, are you done?
Yep.
Jake?
First thing I want to mention is Shelley and I are going to go to Albert Lee tomorrow for an economic development. Convenient. It's actually not just convenient, it's convenient. And then I've got 2 contamination grants and then, well, one's done, the other one I need to finish for the investigation for the Sleepy Hollow lot and then cleanup. We should be able to get most of that paid for, or all of it. And then I know some people were expecting Mayo Clinic to be here. We never got a confirmation from that one way or the other. I've had, since last meeting on September 8th, I've had 5 clinics from Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa reach out looking for any information on that. In my first email, I suggested that they give it to us. I'm going to suggest that a lot more to a bunch of different people at Mayo, and I think that's pretty much, obviously from my seat, it seems like a great deal. I don't know exactly how they'll feel about it, but
Give us the clinic.
yes, and then let us find a replacement for it. Really, because the outreach that we've got, the attention that we've gotten shows me that there are a lot of people interested in this clinic. I mean, it's a town of nearly 3,000 with that great facility that's just about to go sit empty, so people are interested. Don't really know where our hand is in this deal exactly, but we'll just keep suggesting to give it to us. Or the worst possible scenario is that they don't want to see a competitor in that building, which I'll do my best to convince them it's a great idea. And it's just all about, to me, it's all about the commitment to rural healthcare. That's something that we hear a lot, and then our clinic closes. So if that commitment has to come from us, then that's what we'll do. So then, let's see, moving on. Then we just got the agreement on Thursday night for the industrial park grant, which we're feeling very good about that one. And then I just got news 15 minutes ago that the AFG, the Assistance to Firefighter Grant, everything that we're working on is a FEMA deal that's being held up, actually. So there is some possibility that those don't get awarded at all, which is something we need to be very prepared for. And if we don't know by October 1st, then it's likely that all those funds go back to the Treasury and just get pulled from FEMA and the other departments. That's the last thing that we want. we're hoping for better news soon. And let's see, we got a roundabout meeting on October 21st in the auditorium. I expect that one will be somewhat popular. There's not a ton of new information. I mean, as far as the general kind of situation has remained the same. They just kind of worked on that design a little bit. But we know more about the 76 project, and then we've got, after the roundabout's built in 2028, then we have 4 more years of road projects south out of town between here and Spring Grove. So we're looking, we have a lot to say about that one, and that will be probably even more impactful than the roundabout potentially. And that is it. I wish I saw you get excited about the firefighter grant. Sorry.
The roundabout meeting is where and when?
The auditorium at 6 or 7. I don't know if they built it down. I'll get the exact information on that soon. And then if you went to the last one, it'll be very similar to that, just kind of showing where the design is at and answering questions. I know the first meeting they had a lot of questions about the driveways on the north side of 76, and as far as I can tell, those are all being preserved, and there's not a sidewalk running through it, and nobody's losing their front yard. Because that's what we thought a couple of years ago or a year ago. So I expect that one to be very well attended. They seem to always be there yet.
Good, buddy.
Yep.
New business request for proposals, 615 West Washington Street.
Okay. In front of you is a request for proposals very similar to when we did it for the laundromat. Or not laundromat, gravel lot by the laundromat. But basically, since we returned the $10,000 to the Ambulance Association and the council has expressed some interest in getting this back on tax rolls, this is an advertisement for that land. I have my first own correction to kind of, I threw $95,000 down because that's what we paid for it on the sale price. But if you include closing costs, the property tax we had to pay, the legal bills and the survey, it comes up to about 100,000 instead of 95. It could be all the way up to 102.5, but there's a Bolton and Mink bill on there that I don't know is appropriate to pass on to the buyer. And if we include those other costs, that brings it up to a nice clean 100,000 instead of 95. Or you could just say we only want what we put into the actual purchase. That's fine too. As long as you're covering that 95,000, we're in a good spot. But so what this would do is we would run this for about a month, and everything that's in there for how they propose is basically has to be in line with the comprehensive plan. And so for this property, it would have to be a business. We would not. You can do whatever you want, but technically, I wouldn't recommend for something like a storage proposal or something along those lines, or parking or anything like that. Comprehensive plan says that it's going to be a highway business, so that's what we'd be looking for. So with that, I will take any questions.
I do have one tweak on this page 3. It still says downtown district.
Yeah. Thank you.
Where is this property?
This is 615 Washington Street. It's next to Smoothville out on the highway. Or actually, no, it's next to the Strikes car wash there. It's right above the car wash.
That corner lot there.
And if the city owns it, and it's for sale, you're putting it up for sale.
If this is approved, we would, yes. And the reasoning behind it is that the city has switched to a more combined station model, probably located right here, for cost and a few other things like that. I believe it makes the most sense to consolidate. It's the cheapest way to do it, and it's in my mind, you get a better level of service if they're cohesive, if they're working together and seeing the same things and talking about the same things. That's the way we have it now, and that's the way I believe it should continue. And then it goes to that this will be some of the only highway land that's been made available in probably the last 10 years, I think, other than some swaps. Really, the tree huggers one is the only notable purchase I can think of in the last 5 years where something changed use. Everything else is basically in sales businesses and stuff like that. So it seems like a pretty big opportunity to see how that market looks exactly and how eager people are to get on the highway. And returning a property tax roll is always a benefit.
Amanda, you had a question, page 3.
It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth bullet says it ends with downtown district, it should be replaced with highway.
I have a question on the previous page. The folks must be received related to 12 PM October 17th. Is that a little bit tight for people to?
I don't know, so that's only 3 weeks, we could easily bump that up, I think that, I only did that because it fits with the council meeting schedule, we would just bump up one more meeting, which is completely fine. And I agree, you kind of want the best, you want the best time for the best submission, and we don't lose anything if we add 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, it's fine for us.
How are we gonna let people know about it?
So this one, we would put an ad in the paper, we would put an ad on the Leeds Marketplace, their RFP site, and then we would put something on our website, and then hopefully just get picked up from there.
And you said it would be a commercial.
Yes. Yeah, we would, again, you can do whatever you want, but letting it go for residential is not a good idea.
It's got to fit the B2 highway.
Yeah, that's right, it's got- yeah, zone B2 anyway.
Well, first off, I guess, I think, as long as we got 100,000 in it, it sounds like if anybody else would have bought it at that time, they would have had the same money in it.
Yes,
And the dollars, 5 years ago, the dollars have changed quite a bit, so I think 100,000 would be quite a bargain. But I don't want the city, I don't want people to see the city making money on it.
yeah, so that, yeah, the only thing different from this time is I didn't order an appraisal, usually takes like a month and costs us about $1,500. I could do it, but then all you're gonna know is what it's worth. I think it's probably most appropriate just to put it back in the tax roll for what we acquired it for and let somebody do something with it.
I agree.
So, what do you think about this deadline? Do you want me to bump it up a week or 2 weeks? I'm fine with that.
They're all good, Dave?
Yep.
November,
Yeah, the first meeting in November is the 10th. So we'll award it. That's good for me.
they have to have bids in by the 7th then?
I
Or
would,
the 10th do?
no, we would have to have them in by October. I mean, we could do November 7th. The only thing is, the only reason that I need any time to review them is if we're gonna reject anything, and I'm guessing that we'll not get so many that I have to reject anything offhand. So
You should give yourself a week with that, don't you, Jake?
probably,
Go through them, it's pretty.
Maybe the third, November 3rd.
yeah, third, I mean, if I can get it by November 3rd and have that week to do it, that's fine.
Is it sealed bids? Is that what you're doing?
No, with this one, we would take proposals and then, at the meeting, I would expect that the proposer would come and explain what they want to do and all that. I prefer this method because it puts all the power or all the control here, because the sealed bids, you could easily get something you don't want,
Yeah.
but they're willing to pay an extra 50,000 or whatever.
No, that's cool.
So this gives the city council the most control of the kind of
And
economic
powers.
development environment. It's more fun this way.
It sure is.
So I've got changing the price to 100,000 and changing those deadlines to November 3rd and expecting to work November 10th. That, and I'll fix page 3, but I think. But other than that, I think that with those edits, it's probably good to go.
It does say in here that it's gotta be a highway B2 business.
Yes.
I guess I didn't read everything. There it is.
Yeah, it's,
On 2.
page 2, it's, yep, and then overview. And then the requirements are kind of steep, but I figure if you're willing to spend 100,000 on a piece of property and you have a vision for it, you should be able to communicate with it.
I'll move that we offer the property on 615 West Washington Street for sale with your conditions for a cost of 100,000.
That's second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Expired license agreement.
Oh, this one.
Background again here, city purchased 18.09 acres from the Frisch family in 2019. It's where the new sewer plant is that kind of field out on the south side of town. We had surveyed, discovered 4 properties had buildings on city property, surrounding homes around that field. That's where these properties were, the buildings were encroached in on the field that we purchased. After discussions with property owners, the city council decided to give them a 5-year period to remove or relocate their buildings by giving them this license agreement to allow it temporarily while they can make their arrangements. So that time expired August 1st. I sent these folks a notice, just reminding them because at the time only 1 of 4 had taken care of it. So in the meantime, 2 other ones have gone. And we have just this last one here, 423 South Boca. So no contact. As far as I know, this property owner just has no interest in complying with this one at all. So really, the building still exists. It's about a foot over the property line. Also been using the city property to store equipment and junk and everything else. So we've got a few things on our hand here that. Well, number one, the contract's expired, but also kind of a breach of contract as well with items that are stored on the city property. So if you guys had a chance to read through that contract, you got a few options, I guess. The route that we don't ever want to have to go. I'll continue to try to work with them, but we can remove that building and charge to assess the cost back. I think my suggestion on this one would probably be, it's getting 30 days to do something with it. Hopefully we don't have to come back and have this conversation. But really, it's up to you guys what you want to do.
So lean-to looks like an addition to his garage or something.
Yeah, yep, there was an existing structure that needed to be added on at some point. I don't have a date on it. County tax assessor doesn't have it included on the assessment, so it's a portion of these likely not, nobody can pay taxes for it, which is an unpermitted structure that we have.
And if you need to remove vehicles and things, you charge them for that as well.
Yeah, it's pretty rare we ever have to do this kind of stuff, but there's a property preservation company out of Prosser by your office where they'll come in, remove items that at least put on his property. And then, we decide to go for those services.
There's stuff on there right now.
Oh, yeah. As of this afternoon, I took it forward at 11 o'clock. I watched the truck back in, parked up the field, scrap iron in there, track, parts, all kinds of stuff. We've had several conversations over the past few years ago taking care of this.
When's the last time we talked to him?
Oh, probably been, let's say a good 6 months.
Gotcha.
But he's, again, sent a notice here,
Yeah.
30 days ago.
Is that an old building? The part that's on the across the property. How are you able to build a building that's across property lines?
Well, it should have never happened, but
Wait, is it old?
I would say the 80s.
Okay, so
something like
it's
that.
old. It's not.
Yeah, yeah, this is nothing new, but the city discovered it.
Yeah.
Purchased the land, had it surveyed.
And it's just a foot over.
Yeah.
Could you sell them that part of the property?
Well, the problem is it's a utility easement beside, so it really shouldn't be there at all. I mean, it's an option. Start cutting up property lines and stuff.
We went through this with one of the other property owners, and the cost of the survey and doing all that.
I just think it's cool to have
It's
the
expensive,
conversation because not
you know?
everybody knows that, so as people talk in town and it's,
Yeah.
information empowers me to be able to defend,
Yeah.
the right choices.
Yeah, with this one by rights, we have to include the cost of the survey, the legal work for it, and I mean, I think we worked up the numbers on one, and it was gonna be about 12,000 for 100 square feet or so, and it's,
So he has to
Then we got
tear,
to sell the land.
right, of
also,
course, yes,
You
of
know,
course,
it's
yeah.
just,
So he has to tear that down.
Yeah, at minimum, it should at least be, shortened up by a foot, which it's doable. It doesn't meet setbacks at all, but, without knowing what year it was actually built, it might be a legal non-conformity on his property, but not the foot on the city property.
Could you rent it to him? I don't know. It just seems like, my gosh, like for a foot, I'm just being devil's advocate,
Yeah,
like for a
right.
foot, then this guy who's had his land and this is his home for the last
the problem is,
25
Tracy,
years.
is there's gonna be a day hopefully where we put houses on it, right?
Yeah,
And you buy that lot,
yeah,
you want his shed hanging on your land?
well, and you just gotta clean it up now.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
Never a good time.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough situation.
If we do get this done, do you think we'd have to put a fence up? Some kind of a barrier?
Well, that's definitely crossed my mind, at a minimum.
Or
At the end of the road, just put a fence up.
Yeah, probably
That's
wouldn't be
the
the
case.
worst thing.
barricades like somebody else uses?
Yeah, right. We currently have a fence around the wastewater facility, but the rest of that field's wide open. Hope to not have to, but we might solve some issues on this one.
Gotcha. I would like you or Jake to talk to him.
Yeah.
You know, just call him and have a conversation and let's try and handle it.
Yeah, and it was,
Just tell him he's got 30 days.
Sure.
Mention that.
so we'll have another notice, we have to do it on paper.
Or just talk to him on the phone. Just be on the phone on you too. Let's try to make this as civil as we can. Well,
Yeah.
it's a hard thing, you know, I don't blame him if he's gonna get mad at us.
We've used him for some groundwork in the past.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable situation. None of us want to be here talking about
No.
it, but,
We gotta fix it.
you
It's
know,
just the way it is.
there's been 5 years, 1 month of opportunity here. And no, just resistance, I guess, no rationale to actually do it. So,
and we have compliance from everybody else.
right.
The other ones jumped and did all their. Right out.
Yeah, I think if you're talking to him, you gotta tell him what you're gonna do.
Yeah, he's well aware, he's received the contract. and
Yeah,
everything else.
but if you know that we're gonna hire somebody to do his stuff.
Yeah, I would say, I think we would all just assume that and take care of that.
I mean, I would say right now, there's no action being taken because of it. If this is moving and try to convince him to do it, then we don't need any additional action. We might need action in a month. But we'll see. I'm good with that.
Overtime report? Anything crazy on here, Jake?
No, just, the only thing that's really out of ordinary is probably Craig and Pete got a little bit more overtime, but that's not unusual.
Yeah, they were probably working on that lift station repair.
There was that, and then I was up there late one of those nights with Craig at the, plant of that, so.
Steph, you ready? Did wake you up there?
Went that fast. Okay, so we are going to set the proposed levy tonight. The changes, I did make a few changes and I've alluded to, after looking at all the scenarios kind of that we've had, and the biggest piece of the puzzle like right now would be this, well, everybody calls them SCIBA, but the SCBA's, the self-contained breathing apparatus fire departments. And I've been watching the grant. I log in every day because I'm also on there along with Kurt. And no one's been awarded, or they have not posted any awards. You're correct. You know, League of Minnesota said, there's something else going on. So if we wouldn't receive that, it played that scenario into this levy for now. And that's just a big piece. So hence staying right now at the 12% for proposed, just because I just feel like there's a few unknowns here. like to, plan for that with the anticipation maybe to try to bring it down even to a 10. They tried to work the 10 and it just, with us paying half of what they're saying is 245,000. And if you remember, we are only on the hook for half. The fire district would pay the other half. And they have some public safety aid from 23 left to try to bring it down. Still about 113,000. In order to pick that up in the fire, if you notice, when you look at these scenarios, they got the 12, 11, 10, and of course, 12% is 167,748. So that's, when I do a 12%, that's the bucket of money that I have, 167,000. Well, as you can see, I always start with the indebtedness. We need 7,700 more. And then the other funds, library, fire, EDA, I started with the 10% for all of them. And that was on the last scenario that you guys seen for me. And then kind of backed into, and then the general fund gets the remainder of what that is. And then I try to balance at least with that. And if 12's too much, then of course I like to back it down and see where we're at. In the meantime, trying to include whatever overhead, raise increases, insurance changes, the capital that's been requested that's not just wants. We've already went through some of the capital. And again, I just kept going back to, at this point, don't think I can go lower than 12. And I bumped the fire up to, unfortunately, 104,000. So I didn't need all 113,000 to purchase the skivas, but we needed, as you can see, I raised their levy 100,796. So that would give us our half to purchase them in 26. The perfect world would be in the next week, we get the email saying that we received the grant, then we'll change this whole scenario around. So if we receive that grant funding, then I will bring the fire back to probably a normal levy increase. I have like a 10 on there, something like that in a different range. We won't need to come up with that extra funds to cover that. Because it does say they'll be awarded by 9/20 or 9/30, which I think you had read October 1st.
They have to be awarded.
The money has to be awarded, so we're really getting down there.
Yeah, and if they don't go on 9/30, we don't know for a fact that money's going back to the treasury, but there's been no communication.
So in an ideal world, if you got the grant, what would be the effective overall levy?
Then if we get the grant, I'd pull, of course, well, not a full 100,000 out of there. I'll give them some increase to help them with changes in anything that they were looking at. We pull that, and the general fund, of course, would receive more than of that. I'd like to, in the meantime, try to make it maybe down to a 10, I don't know what will come up in the next couple of months, but that would take a big burden, it's 113,000 off of us if we receive those funds. So I feel like we could try to bring the levy down for the final sum, but yet also maybe at this point, I took out the 2 PD vehicles and I took out the tool cat. I needed all of them in order to get that fire department money in there. So then we would look at, would we bring one of those 3 pieces of equipment back or something else? Well, you've seen the capital list. There really isn't, much more on there, but we would relook at the scenario of, okay, where are we sitting now? Let's try to bring it down to a 10. And I did put on there this time, 12 down to 111. It lowers it 13,979 and then 27,958. At this point, if you notice the general fund, I got it sitting at 76,350. I mean, we could lower it and I would feel somewhat comfortable. We would need at least 50,000 in order to keep our percentage probably at 50% reserve. So I would never go beneath 50. It's just our expenses, at 2.7 million, I was able to, by pulling that capital wallet, we went from 2.8 down to 2.7. That changes your percentage a lot, of course, because that's quite a bit of expense, but you just need more funds, bottom line for funds to try to keep the reserve at a somewhat 50%, you know. It's always kind of been the council's goal. I don't know, maybe your goal isn't that. I just feel like it is a good thing to be around the 50. You know, even if we drop to 45, not a bad thing. We were at 60% at the end of 24. It is going to drop, but our anticipated budget is up, you know, more than 100,000 too. So that's the change. You know, in the meantime, maybe a few other things would change on here. I'm not sure. Hopefully not additional expenses, but I've had that happen in those last couple months of things come up where things have increased or changed.
That's what I was wondering about. If we set a levy now, would we review it automatically later?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a preliminary levy, which has to be set by September 30th, and then by December 29th. You have to set the final. It can go down, but it cannot go up. So that's what we say that a lot, but this is the meeting where typically you'd set it high and expect to go down. Don't have to go down necessarily.
No, you don't have to go down, but at this point, you know, we'd set it now, we'll look at it. You know, I'd probably come the end of October, the end of November, maybe. I have done both, and we talk about it, especially the second meeting in November. We talk about it on the 24th. You cannot have your truth in taxation before that day, so I would assume we're gonna do it on the 8th, if everybody plans, because we don't wanna do it 3 days before Christmas on the 22nd. We usually don't have the second meeting, so.
We have a question from the audience.
I do. So, in just looking forward, how many more street projects repairing infrastructure are there? I don't know. Yeah, how many more do we have to repair? Because,
Oh, well, there's no upper limit to that answer. I mean, we had, 5 years ago, we had a pavement replacement plan that said we had about 73 million in repairs to do. That number 5 years ago, obviously that number is quite a bit higher. We could replace the infrastructure on all but about 10 streets, I think, that's as many that are due. So 73 million? Yeah.
I mean, I just think as a city, we need to be getting healthy. And how are we gonna plan for the future? How are we going to make sure that we don't have another Grove Street
Sure.
issue? And this, 2% giving back when we're not healthy and we're just trying to have the popular vote. We are a business and you need to make the right decision, not the popular decision. And all of our community, our taxpayer dollars go to keep our city healthy and thriving and vibrant. And it's an investment for each citizen. And I just think, if we have if our infrastructure is as horrible as we were told when the Grove Street and that it's headed down, and how in the future are we going to repair those and assess, or is it going to be per property, or is it going to be across the scope of the city as a community? These are the things that we need to make tough decisions now. Our city spent many years living high on the hog, not doing an increase in levy, and we need to make up for it.
So part of the problem that we run into with this is only the general fund levy. The general fund is only responsible for the pavement and curb, essentially the sidewalks. So it's about when those utility funds themselves can catch up, because we can't levy for that money. But we know that we're not doing a project next year. We know that we're doing one in 2027. So really, I hate to tell you to wait a year, but next year's budget will be where that decision is really made on if the assessments are going to be for the street and sidewalk and all that.
But these are things to think of
Yeah.
too, in the big picture. Like, let's not just be short-sighted. Let's look at the future as well when we're making these decisions on, pussyfoot around that 2%.
Yeah, and then I think where it's like kind of just the nature of these numbers, where you have a 10% increase gets you 150, 10% of $1.5 million. That's where really you have to get a very large percentage before you get, because $150,000 will pay for the design of a street project, maybe. And that's where, we're talking about the numbers you'd have to raise levy are so massive to make a meaningful difference in that. But it comes down to just a good plan and knowing exactly what we need to do for those. Whereas I think kind of Winnebago, where we get the street and the curb and everything, where we get a good portion of that for free, that's a project where we can make a meaningful assessment policy because the probably cost is so much lower. But I just wanted to make the point that even at 10%, even at 30%, that would be 450,000, which would still not pay for it.
Right, but also too, when you're talking about percentages, 12% sounds scary to people, but 12% of what?
Yeah.
You know, 12% of 167,000 is not, you know, in the scope, we're not talking 12, you know.
Right.
Not everybody's
Individually,
taxes are
right.
going to go up
Individually, people
12%.
always
And
think,
I think that's lack of education, people get scared, and when we have to sort of common discussion it down so that people aren't, you know, 12% to somebody on their property taxes may sound like a lot, but that's not the reality of it.
Right.
They're, you know, it's an education thing.
So to that point, I think it makes the decision pretty easy for tonight to set it at the higher end of it and let us work
and then
for a
see
few
what's
months.
right. We'll have a few answers on, again, on the grant, whether that would be there or not. And then there's a few other things here that I maybe would take away or not. I know everybody, we just had our meeting about the building code. So like I had included 20,000 for the inspector type person. Now we did not move ahead on that. So would you not? Should we take the 20 back out, allocate it somewhere else? Should I leave it? You know, just a few things that I feel like we could make a few decisions on in the next month or so. You know, of course I found money and then we've spent more. I had to go home for 20 years. So, you know, and that by moving, like I said, but moving the biggest chunk being going to the fire, I did pretty much gave them the money for the skivas, but then if you noticed on their budget, they're down to little or nothing. I didn't leave them much because again, we need to purchase a very large purchase. There's not going to be much more. Yeah, I've got their basic capital on there for their turnout gear and radios, whatnot. I mean, just discussion on there too. They're asking for some other wage changes there, and we haven't even discussed that. But at this point, I don't have funds to cover that. You know, and maybe that would change if we get the grant. We can allocate some funds differently, and some decisions on 2 departments actually have. Well, we have 3 departments with different payroll situations, and I think I threw one of them in the budget because the vehicles come out, but these other 2, at this point, when you're either negative or barely positive, I guess I don't feel I can try to build in changes in there at this point. So we would need to look at some of that also. But at least for a proposed, I feel like the 12, I know we keep doing that. This is the 2nd year, 3rd year, I'm not sure. We've been up in the 10 to 12. And again, kind of catching up from, I think we only had 1 0, didn't we, over the years? You guys don't even have all those old years I took out, maybe. 17, we had a 0. We might have had a 0 way earlier than that, but, you know, 2 and 3, which, not that that was bad. Things were different. Did cost different, and there's just so many more requirements and the price of everything. Look at what's changed in 2 years. So, unfortunately, it just takes more to try to operate.
I'll make the motion that we go to 12%.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
We can go into that.
You can blame me?
The next regular city council meeting is scheduled for October 13th, 2025. And I will adjourn the meeting.
Welcome everybody to come in and sit with me and help me find an extra money.